Now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and we're going to continue through the Freddy Krueger saga with Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, the sixth installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, starring Robert Englund, Lisa Zane, Leslie Dean, Sean Greenblatt, Breckin Meyer, Ricky Dean Logan, and cameo appearances from Johnny Depp, Roseanne Barr, Tom Arnold, and Alice Cooper. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And as I said in the introduction, we're going to take a look today at the sixth chapter of the Nightmare on Elm Street saga, Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, or so we thought. And our movie takes place 10 years from now, as Freddy Krueger has returned and killed nearly every child and teenager in the town of Springwood, Ohio. The only surviving teenager, John Doe, is confronted by Freddy in a dream. John wakes up just outside the Springwood city limits, but due to a head injury, does not remember who he is or why he is there. Meanwhile, at a shelter for troubled youth, three of the residents, Spencer, a stoner who is resisting his dad's attempts to get him to conform, Carlos, a troubled kid who was physically abused by his mother to the point where he became deaf in one ear, and Tracy, a tough girl who was sexually abused by her father, all plot to run away to California. The police find John and take him to the shelter, where he becomes a patient of Dr. Maggie Burroughs. Maggie notices a newspaper clipping from Springwood in John's pocket. So, in an attempt to try and cure John's amnesia, she plans a road trip to Springwood. However, in an attempt to run away, Tracy, Carlos, and Spencer all stow away in the van, but they're discovered when John has a hallucination and almost wrecks the van just outside of Springwood. Tracy, Spencer, and Carlos all attempt to leave Springwood, but not before stopping to rest at the abandoned 1428 Elm Street, the former home of Nancy Thompson and Jesse Walsh. Meanwhile, John and Maggie visit the Springwood orphanage and discover that Freddy Krueger had a child. John begins to believe that he is that child because Freddy has allowed him to live. Back on Elm Street, Carlos and Spencer both fall asleep and are killed by Freddy as a result. Tracy is almost killed, but is awakened by Maggie. John, who went into the dream world with Tracy to try and help Spencer, is still asleep. So Maggie and Tracy take John back to the shelter. On their way back, Krueger attacks John in his dream. But before killing John, Freddy reveals that his child is a girl. As he dies, John tells this to Maggie. Tracy and Maggie then return to the shelter, but they find that no one remembers John, Spencer, or Carlos except for Doc, who has learned how to control his dreams. Maggie finds her adoption papers and realizes that she is in fact Freddy's daughter, and her birth name was Catherine Krueger, but her name was changed to Maggie Burroughs when her father was arrested and subsequently murdered. Doc discovers that Freddy's power comes from dream demons who continually revive him, and that Freddy can be killed if he is pulled into the real world. So, Maggie decides that she will be the one to enter Freddy's mind and pull him into the real world. Once in the dream world, Maggie puts on a pair of 3D glasses and enters Freddy's mind. Once in his mind, Maggie learns that Freddy was teased as a child, abused by his foster father, inflicted self-abuse upon himself as a teenager, and murdered his wife. Freddy was given the power to become immortal by fiery demons, and Maggie struggles to pull Freddy into the real world, but she eventually succeeds. Maggie and Freddy end up in hand-to-hand combat against one another, and she uses several weapons that were confiscated from patients at the shelter. Enraged by the knowledge of what he has done, Maggie tears off Freddy's clawed glove and stabs him through the stomach with it, embedding the glove's claw into a steel support beam and leaving Freddy suspended above the ground. Tracy then tosses Maggie a pipe bomb, which she throws into Freddy's chest. The three demons, unable to revive him in the real world, fly out of Freddy after the pipe bomb kills him. As our movie ends, Tracy, Doc, and Maggie all rejoice as Maggie triumphantly declares that Freddy is dead. Honestly, I feel like Freddy's Dead is kind of getting back to form for the Elm Street saga. I think if the Elm Street saga had just been 1, 3, 4, and 6, great story. Great story. 2 and 5 are definitely the weakest out of the 6 we've talked about. Now, we still have Wes Craven's New Nightmare, as well as the 2010 reboot that are going to be covered. But of the 6 that I've covered, 2 and 5 are by and far the weakest. I honestly liked the story here where we finally get to see Freddy as a human, as a mortal, having a life, having a wife, playing with his daughter. I enjoy that part of this, much like I enjoyed the Amanda Krueger saga of part 3. We get to see some of that backstory. We understand why Freddy became the way he became. And again, makes him a little bit sympathetic watching him get teased, watching him get abused, watching him inflict the self violence upon himself to the point where we become sympathetic for him, that's the bad part about Freddy is we become sympathetic towards him, but at least now we understand why he is the way he is. And it's only when you understand somebody else that you can truly begin to appreciate who they are. Like I said, if the Freddy saga could have just been 1, 3, 4, and 6, hell of a story. I would have even re-edited, chopped it around a little bit so that we maybe had the Amanda Krueger stuff, the Freddy as a person, as a human stuff, and then gone into the other stuff. That way you've got a little bit more of a linear story, but I definitely don't feel like the jumping around hinders the story, because if we're sympathetic with Freddy from the beginning, then he becomes an anti-hero of sorts, and we don't want that. As it is, Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Chucky, Pinhead, all these characters are now ones that we cheer on, and they're supposed to be the villains. That's never good. But again, I really enjoyed this film. I thought the Maggie Burroughs Catherine Krueger connection was awesome. This is a good story. I'm curious to know what you guys think about it, but when it comes to me and my rating of Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, it gets 4 out of 5 stars for me. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. What do you guys think of it? Let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. But let's engage in that conversation. Let's have that discussion. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's interact, discuss, debate, communicate. Communication is the key. And make sure you guys tune in at the top of the half hour, right here to the Casa D18 Studios channel for another installment of Renegades Reviews as we take a look at the latest chapter of the She-Hulk Attorney at Law show, the Disney Plus original series that we've been covering here exclusively on the Casa D18 Studios channel, exclusively on Renegades Reviews. Tune in, see what happens next for Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. And then tomorrow, right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, it's going to be a very busy day. First, on Renegades Reviews, we're going to take a look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, starring Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, Miko Hughes, John Saxon, Tracy Middendorf, David Newsom, and Wes Craven. And then later that evening, both here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, as well as on the Jeff Meacham Network and across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media, We're going to be providing play-by-play watch-along coverage of Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory. Pre-show begins at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific. Myself, Noah Foster, James Hebert, all will be providing commentary, reactions, discussion, predictions, you name it, for Impact Wrestling's big show, Bound for Glory. You're not going to want to miss out on any of that content right here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, right here on Renegades Reviews, on the Jeff Meacham Network, across the Jeff Meacham Network multiverse of media. So much happening this weekend. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that notification bell is turned on. That way you're alerted anytime one of the videos drops here on the channel or when we go live, as we will be doing later on tomorrow with that watch along coverage. Make sure you share this video with your family, friends, loved ones, co-workers, movie fanatics, cinephiles, fans of Freddy Krueger, fans of the Elm Street saga. Anybody you can think of that would enjoy this review and this content, share the video with them. Only way we're going to boost up my visibility in the YouTube algorithms so I can eventually get monetized by the end of the year, begin making some money on this endeavor. Thank you once again to everyone who tuned in and joined me here today. It means more to me than you'll ever know. And I will see you guys next time.